biggest stumbling block to MBA admissions and the application process. So I will be moderating the session today for how to attain our GRE GMAT target score. And with me today, we have Damilola Ujo and Okoyemi Sumola that are going to be going through the process to share with us their methods, their advice, their process and everything. So I think we should wait, or should Damilola and Okwe do their introduction on this, or we should wait after 5 minutes so that they can do the introduction?
Toby, it's up to you. So we can wait a few minutes, maybe like 2 minutes.
All right.
And everyone can start.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so let's wait by 2 minutes and then we'll go again by 8:05, thereabouts. So let's just wait a little bit so that others can join in. Thank you. Okay, yeah, welcome everyone once again. I think it's 8:05, so we can start and then everyone else can join in on the call. So like I said earlier, my name is Oluwatobiloba Ashunde. I'm the community manager for Lane Test Prep Group. And then today we'll be discussing how to attain GRE GMAT target scores. And for our panelists today, we have Damilola Ujo for the GMAT process, and then for the GMAT exam rather. And then we also have Okoyemi Sumola that's going to be taking us through for the GRE exam. So I will pass the mic over to either of our panelists. I don't know, whichever one is willing to go first, and so they can do a brief introduction regarding that. So, Damilola, yeah, good to go.
Okay, I think my name is Damilola, so you should be first because D comes before O. So let me just jump in.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so my name is Damilola Ujo. I am a chemical engineer, but I work in IT project management at Coronation Merchant Bank currently. So that's kind of like my pre-MBA background, and I wrote the GMAT in August 2020. I think it was August 10. I wrote the GMAT. So I think that's brief enough an introduction, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Hi, my name is Okoyemi Sumola. I'm also a chemical engineer. Studied chemical engineering from undergrad. Currently, I work with KPMG, the audit division. I got an admission to Imperial Business School for MSc in climate change management and finance. And so it was the last. I wrote my GRE in 2019. Yeah, September, I believe.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for that brief introduction. Thank you, Dami. Thank you, Okwe. So yeah, so everyone we've had that brief introduction. So we'll be starting with the questions properly now. So that we'll be able to, and then hope everyone we hope we are all here gather with our thoughts and questions, because I promise you it's going to be an interesting, and then we'll be able to gain more than one, more than two things from everyone here. So our first question for today's program is, okay, so they've done a little bit of introduction and everything, the MBA program and their pre-MBA background. And then in front of us, we have two chemical engineers. And so the first question, or leading on the first question that after their introduction, so when did you decide to pursue a graduate degree, when you finally got admission, and then how many years, better context, so that we'll be able to tap from your experience? I hope you got the question, Okoya and Dami.
Sorry, I didn't get the second one.
When did you decide to go for your graduate program, and then when you finally got admitted, and then the number of years for work experience that you have?
Okay. In my case, I decided to pursue my MBA. I think it was 2017, late 2017, 2018, and I got admitted in 2020. But okay, so let me explain this. So I knew I wanted to do an MBA. So what I started doing was the prerequisites for an MBA. So I realized that, okay, MBAs don't let people in if you have less than 2 years of experience. It's rare for you to get in less than 2 years or 3 years of strong experience. So what I did was, okay, I will gather experience. I will, attend events, for MBAs, try to understand what they do. And, I started piling up and saying, okay, these are the schools I want to apply for when I want to do my MBA. And, I think it was easier then, because in 2018, 2019, schools used to come to Nigeria. So they would come to Nigeria, I think they'll come to a hotel or somewhere. Then if you already booked it on MBA tour, you'll be able to go there and ask them questions, and you will understand how their culture is, the guys that they have, their alums are in Nigeria, where they work and what they were doing. And that's where I met a lot of friends I have today. I met a guy that was in McKinsey, but he graduated from Darden. So he was one of the guys that was just pushing me towards Darden. Was like, damn, you have to go there.
40 people
really
present.
Interesting. Huh? What'd you say?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I think that was when I said, okay, I was going to go to, I already picked my school around 2019, 2020. So when I wanted to apply in 2020, I wanted to apply for 2020 to finish at 2022. But COVID happened, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do virtual classes with anybody. So the next year I just said, okay. So when it was end of 2020, I just said, okay, let me apply to that, and because there's most likely going to be a vaccine, and we're probably not going to be doing it virtually. So I think the virtual thing held me back for like a year. So I couldn't do so much in that. But that's when I used to do a little bit more research in schools and courses I want to take and fit. That was when I did that.
Oh, okay. So before Okwe jumps in, so for people that are also trying to go through that route, how many years of experience did you have before applying?
Okay, currently I have 4.5 years of experience. So that's the average that's like the sweet spot between when you have like 3 to 8 years, you are just in the sweet spot for an MBA. Like you're at the perfect time. So you haven't done so much that you cannot be taught. You understand? And you are not so senior that they cannot employ you at just at a semi-manager level, not a level below middle management. So that's like sweet spot.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, you can jump in, please.
Hi. So I think right from when I graduated, I knew I wanted to do a graduate program. But I was struggling between deciding. I knew I was drawn towards management, but then I was also drawn towards engineering and energy. So for me, I think that was one of the reasons why I took the GRE, because it was like you could use it for either program basically. Yeah, so I got my admission in June. No, sorry, in May. Yeah, May of this year. And I have
Okay.
about 3 years
So,
work experience.
okay, that's fine. So we have both of them are already admitted, and then so yeah, moving on to the next question. When did you decide, or what influenced your decision on the type of exam to take? So we know Damilola took the GMAT and Okwemi took the GRE. So what are the things that you looked out for before picking the test to take?
I think when I started the journey, sorry for cutting you off. So when I started the journey, like I started thinking of an MBA.
Dami, sorry, before you proceed, Toby, I think we should start this question asking them what exactly their scores were, because people seem to be asking that, even if we already said that one person took GRE and one person took GMAT.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So once they discuss what's influenced their test type, so they just mention their score for yeah. So Damilola, you were saying?
That's the answer.
Yeah, so
Okay, yeah,
when
please,
I was applying,
a quick one. Damilola, sorry, please, a quick one. So please, everyone joining in, can we please mute ourselves as we are joining in, so that there will be little distraction for our panelists. Thank you. Yeah, Damilola, you can go on, please.
that's fine. So what influenced me was I started thinking of MBA from 2017, 2018. So around that period of time, I already said, okay, which exam will I write? So at that time, most schools were not taking GRE. So as of that time, schools were still shaky about the GRE thing. You see probably 5% of the class getting in with a GRE as opposed to a GMAT. So I was like, okay, it seems GMAT is the end all be all of the MBA. So I just said, okay, it's GMAT I will take when I'm ready. So I think that was what influenced me. It was the fact that most schools are not taking as of the time my mind was prepared for it. So that was it. And I scored
Okay, so what?
700 on my first try.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that's a nice one. Yeah, Okoyemi.
Hi. So like I said before, for me it was flexibility. When I took the GRE, I was considering a range of programs, and I think at that point in time, like Dami said, business schools had just started adopting the GRE. So I figured that whenever I was ready, like whatever score I had would still be valid at that point in time. So that's why I chose GRE, and I scored a 325.
Oh, okay. That's nice. But okay, can you break down your scores, because so that for people to get more knowledge about that?
Okay, I can. Yeah, I got 168 in quants and 157 in verbal.
Okay, yeah. So for everyone that are also trying to take their tests, so we can build or do more than what Okwe has done, 157 in Baba and 168 in quant. So yeah, Dami, what about you?
Okay, I got a 49 in maths and a 35. I think was it 35 or 36? 35, I think, in English in verbal. So yeah.
Okay, can you shed more light on that? Because for people that don't really know how the GMAT is scored,
Okay. Okay. The GMAT is scored over 51. So you are given 31 questions for your maths and 36 for your English. So for maths, I got 49 over 51. For English, I got 35 over 51. Obviously, my English is not that strong.
Okay. So I think we are already seeing people that are giving you kudos for. I can see some of us, some people are already loyal to Okwe, and then some to Dami, and even I myself, I'm loyal to both of you. So I don't know, maybe one of you or both of you, I'm going to be taking my front class with you. So okay, yeah. So let's move to the next question. So basically, this is going to be like, I think this is where we are going to spend more time, so that for people who are trying to take the test, and then some people are new to it, some people know how the process works, and then they just need more information and things to build on. So Dami already mentioned it before, that I wrote the GMAT once. I'm not sure if Okwe mentioned that. Okwe, how many times did you write it?
I wrote twice actually, but my scores were not really far.
Okay.
I wrote twice.
Okay, yeah. So Okwe wrote his exam twice, his GRE exam twice. So can you build up on the method, the process that you used in preparing for the exam?
Preparing for the exam, okay. So I think I used a rather unorthodox method. So there were three things I did for my GMAT. I did prepping, like I did preparational test taking, reading, then research. So what happened was I started with a test. So there's this test that is on GMAT's website. So I went there, I did the test, it's 8 questions. So I got 400 over 800. So I was like, okay, fine. But what it showed me was that I got 3 maths questions correctly and only 1 English question. So I was like, okay, very good. At least I know where my strengths are now.
Next time, I can drive from Port Harcourt to Kobo by road.
Sorry. Okay, so that's when I knew my strengths were in mathematics. So
Okay, so yeah, what process did you use? Like, how did you prepare? The number of hours you put in to study, and the likes, and materials used too.
Okay. So so like I was saying, it was a combination of 3 things. So it was test taking, research, and reading. So I didn't read as much as I did research. So what I mean by research is you need to know the scoring method of GMAT in order to do GMAT. For me, a lot of people just go in, read, and do the exam, and I'm like, it's fine. It will most likely pass, but you won't do it efficiently. You might not do it as efficiently as you need to do it. So I had less than a month to read for my GMAT because I really did not. I didn't have the energy to be reading for 3 months, 4 months, which is the normal thing I think everybody should do. 3 months, 4 months to read. But I was in a hurry because I wanted to submit my results in August, and I just started reading by July. So I said, okay, I said I have to do it in the most efficient method way. So what I did was I took the first test and I said, okay, this is what I got. My strength is in mathematics. Then I got the materials. So the materials I used were Manhattan Guides 1 to 9, Kaplan 800, and normal Kaplan. So those are the 3 materials I used. So Manhattan Guides, it makes you remember every single thing you forgot in university and secondary school. That's Manhattan Guides, basically. Then Kaplan, the normal one, just makes you, it expands your knowledge on normal Manhattan has taught. Then Kaplan 800 is the extremely hard one. So the questions there, you are not expected to get that out of 50, you're not expected to get more than 30 correctly in your first time. So no matter how good you are, you can't get every single thing in Kaplan 800. So I knew that, okay, once I've done Kaplan 800, I can go back. So what I did was I read the Manhattan Guide, Kaplan, and the normal Kaplan. I read them for like a week. I finished them in a week. There were 10 books, so I just finished them in a week. Each day I was doing 2 per day. Then what I was now doing was that I went to a host of different websites that they do GMAT tests for free. So Kaplan has a free GMAT test. Let me try to remember all the websites that have free GMAT tests. Veritas Prep has a free GMAT test. Princeton has a free GMAT test. Manhattan has a free GMAT test. And in London Business School, LBS2, there's one stuff there that is a free GMAT test. So the problem with all those GMAT tests is that you can only take them once. So what I did was every 4 days, I was going to be taking a test. So from from every 4 days, I realized that, okay, I'm getting stronger in maths and I'm also getting stronger in English, but I'm not as strong in English as I am in maths. So when I finished reading for like 2 weeks, when I finished doing my exam, when I finished testing and reading, I said, okay, which one am I going to concentrate on? I said, okay, I'm not going to read English again. I'm just going to do maths and I'm going to kill it. That's all. I was like, okay, it's only maths I'm going to do. Then what I think I did that was the most important thing was I found a way to game the GMAT system. So GMAT is easy if you know the questions to answer. So like I said, there are 31 questions in maths and there are, and there are 36 questions in English. Mathematics, you can get 18 questions in maths out of 31 and you get 48. You can get only 18 correct and you get 48. And you can also get 25 correct and you get 42. So what happens is the system, the GMAT system it makes the questions harder the more you are better. So if you pass your first question, it gives you a harder question. If you pass that second question, it gives you a harder question, and so forth. So if you pass your first 15 questions, you are not going to get anything less than 45. If you get your first 15 questions right, you're not going to get anything less than 45. And if you want to test this, just go to their website, register, then you take their practice test, the longest one that is like 4.5 hours. So just do the first 15 questions and make sure you get all of them correct. You can fail the rest, you get 45 over 51 for maths. But you cannot do that for English. English, if you fail 10, you just get 30. You get 30 straight. You are not. So English doesn't have that progressive hardness like mathematics does. So mathematics was very easy. So what I had to do was I had a game plan. If I can pass the first 18 questions in GMAT that were mathematics, and I make sure I pass every single one of them, I can fill the rest. I don't care. So I knew that, okay, I would have to invest a lot of my time in doing those first 18 questions. So like I said, the main thing I did was the test prep. So every single time I would say, okay, how can I increase my score in maths without reducing it in English? So you try to know that, okay, you try to see that if you fail questions early, if you fail your first 5 questions and you pass the rest, you get like 46. So I said, it's just economical. I should just spend most of my time in the first 18 to 20 questions, then clean up. Then the rest, I could take time and I could just do anyhow benefits, whatever entered my brain, I'll just send it out. So, and I also found out that GMAT marks you down if you don't finish your questions. So if you don't finish, if you do your first 25 questions correctly and you don't do the remaining 6, you're going to get 42. As soon as you did not do the remaining 6, not that you did not tick them, but you let your time expire before the remaining 6, you're going to get 42. So I think when you do all this, personal research one after the other, you now know, okay, if I do this is the most economical method to get this. And so I did that for GMAT math. Then for the English, I found a way to game, but it was really something that you need to personally sit down and understand English before you game it. So, and I wasn't that good in English. So I said, okay, I won't put so much effort in the English. The English is you get all your questions right, you get 51. If you get one question wrong, you get 49. You get 2 questions wrong, you get 48. So it's like a progressive thing. I had like a list where I wrote everything down. Okay, if I get every single thing correctly, what do I get? If I get this correctly, what do I get? So that was done over, I think I used like a week to do all this. Okay, trying to memorize what to do for maths and what to do for English. I used like a week to do that. Then after I was done with that, I took my final prep test from Kaplan and Manhattan, which I really advised because Kaplan is harder than GMAT itself. So if you get a 600 in Kaplan, you can still get like a 640, 650. If you get like a 700 in Kaplan, you're just going to get over 700. I'm going to get 720, 750, 730. If you can get 700 in Kaplan, because Kaplan is harder than GMAT itself. So after doing all those, like, okay, after doing them, I knew that, okay, this is what this was the range I'll probably get. And to God be the glory, when I went in, I did my thing and came out well.
Okay, thank you so much for that interesting session, Dami.
So my own prep, I think I gave myself about 3 months to prepare. So first thing I did was I took a diagnosis test, the first time around actually. I took a diagnosis test to kind of see where my levels were at. So I think I studied engineering, so I was obviously better in quant than verbal, off the top of my head. Yeah, so I think someone mentioned that I should explain how the GRE is scored, like Dami did. So for the GRE, you have 5 sections. 3, it can be 3 quant, 2 verbal, or 3 verbal, 2 quant. You don't really get to choose. Now, one of them is 3. The trick about the one that is 3 is one of them is not scored, but you don't know which of the 3 is not scored, actually. So essentially, once you, because you have your essays first. Once you finish your essay, immediately you have your first section. That's the one that is going to be 3, and it alternates. So if you have verbal, first section verbal, second section quant, third will be verbal, fourth will be quant, and then fifth will be verbal. That's how it goes. Now, among the ones that are 3, you don't know which one is not scored. So basically, you have to like give it your best. And just like the GMAT, each section is adaptive. What that means is if you do well in the first section, the second section of that particular, so like if you did verbal first, when you're taking the next verbal, if you did well in the first one, it's going to be harder than the first one you took. And the way it's harder is not even just generally. It's like, for instance, in verbal, you have sentence completion, you have text, you have sentence equivalence, text completion, and reading comprehension. If you do well in the sentence completion, your next sentence completion in the other one is going to be harder. If you don't do well in the sentence equivalence, the next one, the sentence equivalence will be lower. So basically, like, you can feel like one subsection of the section is harder than the next one, and it feels easier. So it's weird like that. That's the way the GRE is scored. And basically, the lowest score you can get in GRE is 150 for each section, and the highest is 170. So that means if you fail everything, you get a 150 over, sorry, 130, not 150. 130 over 170 if you fail everything. But if you get everything, you get a 170. And the schools know that, so don't think that you would like not write things and you get a 130 and you get 260 over 340 and you'll be fine. That's not exactly how it works. If you get a 260, they will literally know that you didn't get anything because they know how the GRE is scored, essentially. So back to my preparation. So after taking the diagnosis test, I think for me, one thing was, especially I will speak more on the quant because it was like, I came from a quant course and this was like easy math. And then I saw like I failed questions and I'm like, okay, why did I fail these questions? Because my calculations were correct. And then that's when you now discover that the GRE has the way they trick you to pick the wrong answers, essentially. So I think what I did for my prep was now focus more on learning the tricks of the GRE and how they try to confuse you, essentially. And then for the verbal, I had to learn like a lot of words. That's the first thing. Then I also read the text. Like, I think they mentioned the materials I used. For quantitative, I used Manhattan. Then for verbal, I used Kaplan and Grover. Now, this doesn't mean I didn't go to other materials. I think when I had issues with some particular sections, I went to some other materials as like backups. Princeton. I used Princeton. I used Barron. I used Princeton and Barron, essentially, just two additional materials for my quantitative. So I think basically essentially was one, I learned the tricks of the GRE because this applies to both quantitative and verbal. for quantitative, there are some things that up the top of my head, you know, is they're like, if you have a quick answer that seems like it's A, you should probably check again, because it most likely is not. You have to be very careful. There are some other things like, oh, you should not assume anything. An image might appear one way and it might look like a right angle triangle, but they didn't tell you it's a right angle triangle, and you assume it's a right angle triangle, and you solve, and you just pick one answer. Meanwhile, they didn't tell you it's a right angle triangle. So you have, like, there are a lot of things you have to start considering when you start reading the text.
Okay, you muted yourself.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Where did I stop, please?
I said there are some questions where they are saying right angle.
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, it's essentially a standardized test. What that means is that they try to confuse you. Essentially, they know that you don't need anything more than SS3 marks to solve those questions, but it's all like part of the system. They create it in a way that if you are not careful, like, you just be misled. One thing that stuck with me in my preparation was like the GRE is really a reading test. It's a test of understanding what they're asking you. Like, in as much as you are solving, it's a test of understanding. If you don't understand what they're asking you for, you won't know what to do, essentially. And you can easily be led off tracks by the way they present their questions. Yeah, so that my advice would probably be around one, like, really taking out your time to understand these tests and how they are prepared in the first instance. That would give you that will tell you what to look out for when you're writing your exams, for you to know exactly where they are twisting the questions from, so you don't make the mistakes that everybody else would make, essentially, basically.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Okwe and Dami. So I think, cool. First thing first, like, the baseline is take your research seriously, get to understand the exams, get to understand how it is called, get to understand how it is rated. Take your first diagnostic test to know where your strength lies. You know, just do a basic SWOT analysis on yourself to know where your strength and your weakness lies. So for Damilola and Okwemi, yeah, they are both strong in their maths. Don't forget, they didn't relax or lax on that because they know they are good in maths, but they still made extra effort, and then they try to improve their English too, their verbal rather. So yeah, for Okwe and Dami, yeah, you didn't really mention about the written aspects. Like, we just spoke on the verbal and the quant. Is there any essay or any essay writing that people have to take note of in the GMAT and the GRE?
Well, there are two. There's an essay. There's an essay, then there's an integrated reasoning part for GMAT. But let me just tell you this: if you prepare for your maths, you know the maths parts. Don't waste your time to go and learn that. You know the maths parts. Then for the essay, nobody looks at that essay. Apart from except you're going to school in Canada like Roseman and Ivy, nobody else is looking at that essay. Like, just it was the so the day I was going to write the exam was a Monday, and I stopped reading for the exam last week Wednesday. I started playing Witcher 3. It was on Sunday night, 9:30. I just looked at my GMAT book for like 30 minutes. I said, okay. And it has the same format. The questions have the same format, and the way you answer it has the same format. So they will probably give you a question of, okay, what do you think about this? So the trick is, you must never say that this is good. You must always say, this looks good from a first glance, but these are the reasons why it's not good. These are reasons, and you have to give 3 reasons, and that's all. So basically, it's not. There's no need to waste your time. GMAT is a place of efficiency. It's not about writing all those things. You notice schools don't ask you for your analytical writing like that. They are not really interested. They are interested in mass verbal. That's all. If you get 800 and you're getting 0 in and you're getting three in analytical, 3 in integrated reasoning, they won't bother. Although the schools that will ask, like Rotman and IB, please ensure you get a high score there if you want to do Rotman and IB. But if you're not going to Rotman and IB, I think a 4/8 is enough. Like, don't bother yourself. A 4/8 is enough.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, the GRE has 2 essays actually, and they are scored together, a combined score. I think they said each essay is reviewed by 2 people, and then they give, like, you get an average of the entire thing, and I think it's scored over 6. I think schools look at the essays, they look at your score in the essay, but they are not overly particular about it. So what that means is that if you get a very high score, they're like, oh, okay, this person can write, this person can communicate well, this person can reason well. Like, it's just an added benefit. And then you don't want to score like poorly there as well. Like, you don't want to do like get like an abysmal score, and then they're like, okay, can this person actually speak English? Like, you know, like when there are some scores that, like when you're getting like 3/6, they'll start questioning, like, can you actually communicate in English? Like, can you write, like, you know, like legibly for people to understand what you're trying to say? So you don't want to get like something bad, but like you don't have to like score over the top, like 6/6. If you get like a 4.5, yeah, good. Once they're getting 5, 6, they're like, okay, this person can communicate, that's all. Yeah, I did take out time to prepare for mine just to see the way like people structure their answers essentially. And like Dami said, you always want to consider the other point of view or another point of view when you're writing your essays. So like there are 2 essays, like I said, one of them is an issue essay, the second one is an argumentative essay. But the truth is that the issue essay is an argumentative essay in disguise. What that means is that you actually have to like pick a side and then explain why somebody else would pick another side, and then counter it by saying that your side is better because of this, and that. So in reality, the issue essay is an argumentative essay. Then the argumentative essay is just, they give you a proposition and they ask you whether or not they ask you to give reasons why you don't align with whatever they said, essentially. And then you have to come up with your reasons. You have to structure your essay, and you have 30 minutes to write each of these essays. So the trick is to get your first draft out and make it as good as possible, essentially. So like I said, if you score an average, you're fine. You don't have to do,
Thank
you don't have to get like...
Okay. Oh, okay, thank you so much for that. So I think the point is that you should as much as possible to sit on the fence. So you know that why you are doing that. And theory, I know that we have 5 questions. So you can actually determine this is just a bonus anyways. You can determine your 5th question. So it depends on what you pick when you are doing your registration. So if you pick something towards the quantitative course, you get a quantitative 5th question. And then if you pick towards like written or story like courses, you get an English test, insightful and very gracious advice that you give us. So when did you determine that your score was satisfactory enough, and how did you go about that?
Okay. For me,
Yeah, Dami, you are mute. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Oh, sorry. No. Okay, sorry. I said I did a bit of research on it, and I realized that this school, the reason why you get in or not is because it's based on a lot of things, not really your GMAT score like that. Although your GMAT score is important, but your GMAT score matters where you wrote your GMAT. Let me explain. I got a 700, and that is enough for me in any school. Any school, Harvard, I had guys that went to Harvard for 680, 670, Nigeria. But if you're an Indian and you get 720, and you have my same stats and everything I'm doing, you won't get into the schools I'm getting into. No matter how good you won't get into, because they look at it, okay, the Indians and Chinese guys, their average mark over there is, for the high guys, are 740, 750. So they expect you that, oh, they have this thing that they look at Indians to get an average of 50 marks higher than the normal person. So those ones is stacked against them. But if you're an African, we are home free. So as an African, as long as you have a score that is reasonable, for me, in the GMAT, if you are not going for a Harvard, Stanford, Watson, you don't need to score more than 660, 670. You don't need to, as long as you've tried as much as your strength and you can't get beyond the 670, 680, just stop it and just concentrate on your essays, look at your story, brush up on your story, try to make yourself more flexible or more interesting for them, because they are going to look at it like Africans, they think that Africans are dumb. So, well, it kind of works against them in this case, because you just have to get a score that is normal. And they're like, oh, this guy is probably one of the best in Africa. We need this guy. So, that came out from a lot of research I was doing. So when I spoke to the schools and I was asking the Africans there, they were like, oh, I got 640, 650. And I was like, why am I stressing myself? 700 is enough now. So, and also, I have there's this rule I created in my mind. I created. So it's not tested yet. It's not tested apart from my current sets and the current guys I know that I hang out with. But if you see the average score of a school, right? Like, for instance, the average score for Colombia is like 725 or something. Just minus 30 if you're an African, just minus 30. If you're an African, minus 30. If you're an Indian, plus 30. So for that, what that means is, as an African, you can just get 690 or 680 and you are going to Colombia. Sure, your story just has to be good. You are done. But if you're an Indian, you can't get 720, you must get 750 to get into Colombia. An Indian and a Chinese guy. If you're an American, you probably get 730, 740. So that's the kind of thing I had in my mind. So I already done my research and knew that they don't consider Africans that brilliant. So if you get anything good, they're like, this guy is probably the best in Africa. I beg, let's take him up before other schools, grab him. So that's how I came up with my decision.
Okay, for me, I focused more on my quants really. I wanted to get my quants in the 90th percentile. So I said I wrote the GRE twice. First time around I got 322. My quant was 165. So it was just shy of, I think I was like 80-something percentile. Then so I wrote the second time and then I got 325 and so I got 325, 168 quantitative. My verbal remained the same, didn't go down. So I was fine with it. I was like, we are good to go. We're home free. Essentially, that's what we had to do.
Okay. Okay. So, of course, this question is actually for you. So, for how many months more did you, like, between the first time you wrote your exam and then the second time? How many months of preparation did you put in?
Okay, so I wrote the first time I wrote it in 2018. The second time was in 2019. But I was not like actively preparing. I think when I decided I was going to rewrite, I just set like a month deadline because I already knew like essentially what to expect. But I just needed to focus more on my quant. So I started doing, I think I did Manhattan the first time around. Second time around, I used Manhattan squarely for my quantitative. And I was really focused on quantitative. And I saw a lot of things, like when I used Manhattan. It's common knowledge that Manhattan GRE is much harder than the GRE, like the GRE exam. Manhattan's questions are much harder when it comes to GRE. Kaplan is not hard actually. Their GRE maths is easy. I don't know, when Dami says that Kaplan's their maths is harder than, I'm like, that's the opposite for GRE. Kaplan's GRE is Kaplan GRE math is very easy. But Manhattan's math for GRE is much harder than the math you'd expect. So it gave me a lot to watch out for when I was taking the actual exam. So I just set a month to like brush up essentially between the two. But I think it depends on you as a person in between your exams, realizing the amount of work you need to do to get like the score you're looking for. That will determine how much time to set apart. And another way to do it, which some people as well do, is they look at when is the deadline for submitting, and then they backtrack how many days they need to write, and then create a plan based on that. Basically, that's what some people do as well.
Oh, okay, thank you so much for that. So everyone, for the GMAT guys, for this school or your target score, just do what was the hypothesis that we give us the other time? Plus 30. Don't do the minus 30. Just do the plus 30 so that you'll be safe. And then you're competing with Africa. You never can say. So people can just decide to take it serious, and then the scores might just go high up the roof. So moving on. So we know there are a lot of study materials out there. There are a lot of resources, just like we've been mentioning, Manhattan, Kaplan, and the likes. So what are the metrics that you use in deciding the particular resource that you eventually used in preparing for the exam? Like, what metric did you use? Is it maybe someone telling you that, oh, this is the best, or based on your own research, or maybe someone just tell you that, okay, or a school, maybe after discussing with the admission committee member tells you that this. So what are the metrics that influence your decision in making or sticking to a particular test resource?
Test resource. Okay, so I'm usually a loner when it comes to reading. So I didn't ask people personally. It was just saying, okay, I felt that GMAT was easier for someone with a quant background than GRE, because I saw the GRE English and I was like, nah, I can't do this. I took a look at it and I was like, nah, this is not for me. This is not for me at all. But the GMAT, when I saw the math, I was like, okay, this seems around my alley, So, and I already sat down to understand how to score the perfect score in GMAT. So I was not even going to stress myself and go further for GRE. Nah, the work I did for GMAT was enough. I was like, nah, it's enough. I couldn't add more stress on my body.
For me, I think you asked the resources we use. How did we decide the resources we use?
Yeah.
So for me, at the time I was writing GRE, a lot of my friends were also planning writing GRE. So I just sourced a bunch of materials from a lot of people, and then I went through all of them, and then I was really finding the ones that I could really understand what they were like. I got the gist they were talking about, because and it was different because I know I tried using my GRE math. One of the places I had a lot of issues with understanding was probability, and I remember reading. I think the ETS guide or Kaplan's probability, and I still do not understand what they were saying. So for me, it was like I'm using one material to read, and then if I don't understand what's going on, I start switching to all the other materials to see if I'm going to get the gist from the other ones as well. And I've heard some people also talk about videos. Some people use videos to learn. I had a friend that used videos for her own preparation. And then I think Daniel mentioned Greg Maths, because I know Daniel on last call, I think 2 calls back, Daniel had a lot of issues with his maths prep as well. So he mentioned Greg Maths. I think that helped him as well. So yeah, I think it's just finding what works for you. You really have to really dig down and find what works for you in particular, because everybody is different and everybody learns differently. So that's what I would advise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for that. So we should all try to do more research, pick the resource or resources that best works for you. So the fact that someone is using Manhattan or Kaplan does not mean that you can't use other resources. Just look inward to your strengths, your weaknesses, and then you can do more by picking a particular resource to use. So you do that. Yeah, so we are seeing some questions here. Well, yeah, that's a little bit of a digression, but I believe that it's going to help one or two people here. So yeah, we have a question that is asking how many hours that you put in studying. So Dami, if you can jump on that.
Okay, I think mine was different because I had less than a month to do it, so I was really obsessive about it. So I think I was averaging like 6 hours a day, but that was for 3 weeks. So if you do yours in 3 months, it'll probably be 2 hours a day. So I was averaging like 6 hours a day for my GMAT. So I don't, and if you are working, I think you should just do your GMAT. It should take 3 months or 4 months to space yourself. I was working, but what I was looking for was my boss was really happy. He wanted me to do the exam, so he freed me a lot. Like I was virtually on leave without collecting official leave. So I was working from home. So every hour, beside my work, I just had my GMAT book. I was just reading it every single, I'll start reading from like 9 in the morning. By 3 o'clock, I was done, and I'll do a bit of research, and I'll say, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. I'll take it, then I'll go off. So I think the average person should just do 2 hours or 3 hours every day for 3 months, or if you want to do rush 6 hours for like 3 weeks or a month.
Okay. For me, I think I already put this on the chat. I used 2 to 3 hours every day. I think I used to close work I just told myself, because I work in a very fast-paced environment. I told myself that by 6 o'clock I'm done. Nobody's telling me anything. I'm not working until past 6. Like literally, I just give myself that mindset. So I think latest 7 o'clock. Like if worse come to worse, I have to work past 6. 7 o'clock I've shut down. I've moved, and I was working from the office then. So once it's 6, I've closed my laptop. I've left the pool. I've gone to go and find somewhere to hide in the building for the next 2 to 3 hours. I have to leave the office by 8:30. So from like 6 to 8:30, I'm studying my books, like preparing essentially. And then in transit, coming from home to work, it's me and my GRE book. I had my words listed out and their meaning, like just like memorizing them on the way going to work, on the way going back home, because like transit time was like one of the times I was wasted, and that was like a good an hour and a half both ways. So I think if you add everything together, I was probably averaging maybe around 4 or 5 hours of study. Well, essentially, you just have to find a way to find the time. You need to find a way to make out time to study. You have to find something to work for you, essentially.
Okay, thank you for that. That's the question. That's the response to the question. We've all had that. So yeah, Dami and Okwe, so how do you think the test score are a major determinant in funding decisions, and why do you think they form the basis where people get their funding?
Yeah, so I think scores are a good, they're a good metric for funding, but I would say it's based on your. I'd say it's a combination more that, let's say scores are like 15% of why you get funding, at least at higher level schools. Scores are like 15%. Your story, what you want to do, how closely you align with the culture, and how much of face time you've put in with the admissions guys. I think that matters a bit more than your scores. But I think with the higher score, you'll probably get higher funding. If everything is the same story, same everything, you probably get higher funding with a higher score. But it's not the major prerequisite for for funding. It's not.
I think generally the scores are used to assess your ability to withstand the rigor of the program. I don't think they are like the admissions committee really they really use a holistic approach, to be honest with you. And the scores are just there to like prove that you can basically go through the program, essentially. Yeah, it's always advised that you score, like for the GRE, it's advised to score above a 320. Advised for funding purposes. For GMAT, I'm not sure. For GMAT, I'm not sure, but I think 700. Yeah, 700 and above is fine. But I think it also depends on the school, to be honest with you. Because some schools will always say, okay, we have a shared responsibility approach. What that means is that if you like score 760, if you like score 280, all of you are getting the same 400. They are not switching. That's some schools. I think we know the school share, but yeah, some schools are like that. Some schools, to be honest with you, you can get it. I think I know someone that got like less than a 320 essentially, and got full funding to one business school as well. So I don't think like the scores are they are important, but they're not like there's no one part of your application that is more important than the other part. Essentially, you really have to like consider each part together, and anywhere you feel like you have a weakness, you have to find a way to make up for it in the application, essentially.
So basically, we should everyone should try to put their best foot forward in the application. So your test score, your essay, everything, put in your best effort so that the reward is going to be gigantic. So yeah, so Okwe and Dami, what tips are you leaving for people? Like the tips, the best practice for the GRE, the GMAT test prep. What tips are you giving people here? I mean, those that are planning to take it, or maybe those that have already registered for it.
Okay. For GMAT, to be honest, I think you should leave time between your exam and when you stop reading, because I think maybe for me, or I think I noticed it among a lot of my friends who wrote GMAT. And what I noticed was that 3 to 4 or 5 days before their GMAT, they can't read anymore. The anxiety is so much, like nothing gets absorbed anymore. Like even I had the same issue. I couldn't absorb anything after, like from Wednesday, Thursday. I had my exam on Monday, but I couldn't absorb it. I couldn't read again. If I tried reading, I'll just be nervous and I'll be feeling questions that I know I should pass normally. So I just said, leave that. And another tip is do your research on how they score, and do your research on how they score, and do a lot of pre-testing. Pre-testing will make sure your life is easy. You will know what to concentrate on. So okay. So for instance, if I saw any question on probability, I wouldn't do it. Not because I couldn't sit down and do it, but probability questions will probably take 3-4 minutes to do. And I look at the time for GMAT, it's like 70 minutes for maths, and 65 minutes for maths, and I'll be doing a probability question. Nah. Immediately I just say a probability question, I'll just pick the answer that just looks the sweetest in my eye and just throw it away. Other questions are prepared for, because I know they take shorter time. So you have to know yourself, do a lot of test prep, and try to rest before, and try to reward yourself. Like I tell people, I couldn't read without rewarding myself. So when I started reading for my GMAT, I also bought a video game, The Witcher. So for every hour I spent reading on the GMAT, I spent that same amount of time on The Witcher. And thankfully, I finished The Witcher at the same time as I finished the GMAT. So it worked out well for me at the end of the day. But not everybody likes games. You all can just be going out watching movies. Try to enjoy yourself when you're reading, or else it just seem like a chore at the point. For me, gaming felt like a reward after doing the exam. No, after reading, felt like a reward for
me. For me, tips. One, manage your emotions during the exam. Like, that's my first tip. Manage your emotions. Because the way that time will be flying, the way the time will be flying, oh my God. And I think it affected me in my verbal actually, because like I had two verbal sections, and then I did the first verbal, and then second verbal. I've forgotten what happened, but like it got to a point, I just like I lost it. I didn't know what was going on in my head again. I was like, I panicked, like full-time panic inside the exam, or like and the questions, you know when you're looking at the question, your time is flying, but like your head cannot even, like you cannot even reason what was written there because your heart is just going, your heart is beating very fast. So you have to find ways to manage your emotions, and it's not easy, because to sit down and write an exam for 4 hours straight, it's not easy. It's not easy. So be ready for that pressure. Be ready for that pressure, and knowing fully that you're not going to have, the highest you have is your 10 minutes break. And please take your 10-minute break. Don't let them deceive you that you don't take that. Take that 10 minutes break. You need it. Don't let them deceive you that you don't. Just they will try it. Like with the ACD and everything. Take it. Go and rest. Go to the restroom. This yourself. If you buy something to eat safe, that you can just snack on that 10 minutes break and rest before you go back, because it's going to be intense. It's really going to be intense. Yeah, I always advise as well, even after you're studying, try and take out like 1 day or 2 days after studying to just refresh yourself, to balance, because you've built up so much anxiety and so much pressure. And like I said, it's about emotional stability. You don't want to enter the exam hall and then with all your anxiety and your pressure, you just come there and they're like, go, go, go. And then just because if you panic now, it's going to be hard for you to regain your mental stability. So take out time, rest. I think I took myself out to like the cinema or something like the day before. Like I just spaced out. I wasn't doing anything. Then that morning I just refreshed. Then advice for the prep itself: really do a lot of questions, because what happens is the more questions you do, the more things you find out. The more ways you find, the more ways you find to approach certain questions. As well, get familiar with the testing platform. Like Dan mentioned about probability questions that like you would not do them. At least in the GRE, I don't know about the GMAT because I didn't do GMAT and I've not actually looked at GMAT and see how it is. See how it is. But in GRE, you can mark a question and move on and come back to it later. I don't know if you can do that in GMAT. Exactly. So that's one thing you can use in the GRE. And trust me, I use it because they're sharing in paper. And I use it sometimes in quant. If I'm solving a question, it's taking way too much time. Mark, move on. When I'm done, I bring out a list of questions, see the ones I've answered, the ones I've not answered. I think for verbal, what I did was I always do reading comprehension last. Like that's the last thing I want to read, because that text is so. Before you understand like 3 sentences or 4 sentences, you have read it like 3 or 4 times before you understand what they're saying. So that's like a lot of time. So I just mark all the reading comprehension, move on, do the text comprehension, do the sentence evidence, then come back, go to the smallest passage, start from the smallest passages, then work your way up. Yeah, you have to find the way that works for you essentially. So that would be my tips for the exam in particular. Then preparation, find what works for you and stick to it, because there are a lot of materials out there and not everything works for everybody. You have to really find what works for you in particular and stick to that and use that to learn. And then community is always good. I would advise you to join Lean, because I didn't have that community when I was preparing for my own exams. And I feel like if I had that community, I could have done like so much more with it for my own. I think I'm a loner reader, yes, but that doesn't mean I don't like to. I like to reach out to people as well, especially if I know I have issues in certain areas. So having those people that you can kind of like fall back on to seek advice from, is really something that can be of benefit to you. And that GRE group, the way the materials used to fly left, right, and center, like this, trust me, you want to be there. You don't want to miss out.
Okay, thank you very much, Okwe and Dami. So our takeaway points: try to unwind, just like our primary school is it adage now? All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So always try as much as possible to unwind and then take time out. I use chocolate to reach. Sometimes when I'm done, just take a bite of chocolate and then I'll go on. And I'm not sure if the AC always works when you get to the exam center. I'm not sure if that AC works. I did my test and then the lady beside me, she was practically crying. She was practically crying. Like, I just look at her like that. I saw tears. I just look at my screen back like, okay, let me just focus on me. Don't let this emotion of this lady affect my exam. So we need to take care of our emotions and then stick to what works best for you. So yeah, our time is I think fast spent. Let's just take this last question. So Dami and Ope, what advice do you give to candidates to decide or that are in the process of deciding on which test to take? What advice will you give to them that's going to help them in making a decision?
I think if you are strong in maths, I think GMAT is your best bet. If you are very strong in maths, like you have that strength, GMAT is your best bet because GMAT, you can get your high score by just focusing on one and just leaving, and the other one, you will work on that, but you don't have to kill yourself on that. But you say, okay, this maths, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to get the maximum score of 51. I know that once I get my 51, the rest is history. If you have 51 in GMAT and you have 33 or 34, you're still going to get 700. So, it's that kind of thing. So if you are strong with maths, please, and you are ready to do the work, do your GMAT. But if you're stronger in English and you're not strong in maths, I think GRE is a really sweet option. And GRE is more generalistic than GMAT. GMAT is just for business school. Bam, that's all. Nothing else. But GRE is, you can use it for MSc, MBA, you can use it for a host of other things.
So I think I'll stick. I'll align what Dami said. Stick to your strengths. You basically have two considerations to make. One, your strengths. Two, what you are looking to gain, the program you are looking to apply for. GRE is more general, which means you can apply for a lot of other programs apart from business school. GMAT is very focused on business school. If you are strong in quant, you might want to tilt towards the GMAT. Simply because, to be honest, I think the GMAT English is simpler than GRE English. Like, it's simpler, and the GMAT, your score actually gets higher if you score higher in quant. That's the funniest thing. Like, if you score higher, you can score very high in verbal and low in quant, and your score will be low. To be honest with you, GMAT focuses more on quant. Like, if you know you can bring in those quant scores, like you can bring in those quant numbers, like you can try out. What I just say is, just do it diagnostic test for both of the tests. If you know it's an MBA you want to do, do it diagnostic test for the two tests, GRE and GMAT, and figure out which one you feel you have the least, you need to do the least information for, and then just focus on that one. That'll be your easiest way to get the score you're looking for.
Okay, thank you very much for.
I said do a diagnostic test, please. I don't say she write the two exams, so don't misquote me. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ope and Dami, for this wonderful session. So if you are very good, there's emphasis on the very. If you are very good in maths, you can take the GMAT. And I think someone asked the question that, what if you are not good in both? Okay, so well, you have to find. You must be good in one. You must be better in one.
No, I think I already said now. Do the test, do the two. When you do the two, you know which one you fall automatically. You will know once you do the two.
Okay, I know that diagnostic test can be deceiving. Like my first GMAT diagnostic test was 300. It was 400. It was 400 now. Although it was a small 8-question test, but You could have
You didn't take the GRE now. Did you do the GRE diagnostic test?
They did not go anywhere. I don't try things like that. I don't do that.
If you did this,
Okay.
you'd have been tempted to go for GRE.
Okay, so baseline, just do whatever suits you or what works best for you. Play to your strengths. So just play to your strength, whether it's the GMAT, whether the GRE. Yeah, the decision is solely on you. So, and then you have to pick the one where you know that you'll be able to get the best. So yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Toby,
I think.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Toby, 1 second. So I want to unmute Samuel. So on this, which test best suits you? I think Samuel has some insights around this that he usually shares. So Samuel, please kindly share your thoughts.
Hi, everyone. So thank you very much to guests for joining us today. I want to say thank you to you, Toby, as well for moderating. When it comes to GMAT, GRE, first of all, as we all know, any one you take is accepted by many business schools. I know someone just mentioned that it's important to take the test and find the ones that suit you. That's usually great. One thing I found out is the GRE is slightly more suited to the way we're being taught than the GMAT, especially for those who schooled and spent all their time down here in Nigeria. But one thing I always say is just the mindset. I wouldn't see it as an exam. I would see it as a course, as a pre-MBA course, just as you have the A levels for many people before going to university. This is an A-level course for those going into the MBA program, because it's not just about getting the grade as well. It's about preparing you for the rigor of academic studies in the postgraduate stage of your MBA program. There'll be a lot of basic skills that GMAT or GRE will teach you that you will not get anywhere else, because that's not just the way you're brought up in the educational system back here in Africa. So that mindset is really important. That mindset change is fundamental to succeeding in the GRE, or the GMAT, just seeing it as an exam, not just seeing it as an exam, but seeing it as a course that you must take. Again, the other mindset that I think everyone should have is the growth mindset. I know a friend of mine who actually was part of the Lane community, who were literally talking about going back to picking up GS1 maths textbook. Yes, GS1 maths textbook, because she could not put 2 and 2 together. She spent all her life, all her working experience in a qualitative background that had nothing to do with numbers. So it's only the growth mindset that can make such a person end up having a 315 in the GRE exam. So the exam is not hard. It's not a test of intelligence. That's one thing people fail to understand. It's a test of practice. If you open your mind up to it and you practice, you're sure going to get a good grade or get a good score. So I think this is a few things that I wanted to highlight on top of all the wonderful insights that our guest has shared today. And thank you very much for joining. Olamide, you may have 1 or 2 things to add to that.
No, Samuel, so it's fine. I think the only thing that I just wanted to say is that I think we sometimes look at this test in a different way. Seems like a lot of pressure comes down to taking the test. And I say this for a lot of people that you interact with, people in the Lane community and people that you meet as well. But I think what strategies work for somebody else might not work for you. I think you should also think about how you best study as a person, what your schedule is like in terms of how you work, what time do you have, how can you better schedule yourself? Because anyone going into graduate studies, whether it's an MBA, an MSc, PhD, or any other type of program, think about yourself as somebody that has to be a better planner and somebody that has to be able to schedule their time very well. And how best you do it during your test prep really shows how best you can actually go through the application process and also manage your time as well through the entire journey. So my tip is more around the entire process, not just your test. but try to manage what works best for you. Figure out what works best for you. I know Dami was talking about how he studied for 1 month. Some people even did less, to be honest, and they came out fantastic. I think it was Imam, somebody that got into HBS, that said that he would even recommend his strategy to other people. And that's because his background is probably different from yours. So I think look at your background. Try not to benchmark yourself based on other people. Somebody else got 325 doesn't mean 325 is the same thing you had to get. But can you do your best? Like, what else can you do? That's what you should think about. So Toby also talked about how you should bring your best foot forward. And I think that's the key word, like a lot of people should take out from this. It's not about getting 320. It's not about getting 325. It's not about getting 700, 740, but it's about doing your best, ensuring that your best is better than the average that is required for any program that you're going for.
Right. And to add to that, again, thank you, Dami and Okwe, for sharing your insights today. To add to that, some people took the exam 3 times. I think one of us took it 5 times. People take it 6 times. So if you fail the first time, it's not the end of the world. It's not a test of your intelligence. Some people need 6 months to prepare for it. Other people need 1 year to get set with it. It's all about assessing where you're truly from, where you are, and take it all the time. That's why we encourage people to start early. Start early so that if you realize that you need more than 2 months, you still have enough time to write the exam, read, and still put in an application in time for the first or second round. But I think we've all learned a lot. It's really great to listen to Dami and Okwe and even Toby as well, speaking about their experience. The good thing about it is a year ago or thereabout, they were on the other side just as you, just listening to other people and finding what works best for them. Hopefully by next year, you will be part of the panelists as well, telling us what you did and encouraging other people to go on this journey that you have chosen.
Okay, thank you so much, Samuel and Olamide, for adding that, extra idea and insights to what has been said all day. And I believe that we've all learned one or two things. So we just need to work to our strengths. So if we have, can we have, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 people who have questions to just unmute themselves and ask our panelists the questions. And then if you want to ask the question, you can just put it in the chat box so that you can get access to that. Anyone, please? Any questions, please? It's like everyone got the message about preparing for GMAT and GRE tests.
Hello everyone. I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think someone has asked something similar. I just want to make it more specific to my own case, and I want to hear your advice on that. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to do something around finance and development, but at the moment my issue or the place I am in is the place where I really don't know the schools I want to go for. Neither do I know like which of the tests they'll be requiring. So should I be leaning towards the GMAT end in my own case or the GRE end? Thank you.
Okay, Okwe or Dami, do you want to take a shot at that?
Said he wants to do looking at a finance MSc, right?
Yes, I'm not. Samuel.
Yes.
Is it an MSc program or an MBA program?
Honestly, I'm not exactly sure now. Some of the programs I've seen have covered just MSc Finance. Some programs have covered MBA in like proper MBA. but I'm not exactly sure. But I know it's something around finance I want to do. But my options are spread from the MBA to regular MSCs. So I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I think your issue is one you are not sure of the program you want to go for yet. So that factors in as well. I think what you can do at this particular point in time is look at the programs you are interested in and look at the requirements. So some schools will say you can use either option. Some schools will say they prefer a particular one. So if you can list out the schools and programs you are looking at, you'll be able to have like a clearer view of what they require and which one they require. So basically, if they're telling you they pick either one, then you don't have to choose a particular one. You can now choose any of the two of them that best suits you. Then if they are saying they require one, then you have to go down if you're interested in that particular school. That's what I would say you should do. But I also say maybe you should look at yourself and ask yourself if an MSc in finance makes more sense for you than an MBA. You really have to look at your career goals and decide what program suits you better at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other person before we round up the session?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I would want to know which is more preferred. Is it after your exam you decide to select the schools in which you'd want to go, or before your exams? Because trying to do research of the school while studying, it's been kind of so. I would want to know, is it after the exam or before the exam you try to look to the school you want to go to? Thank you.
I guess for most people, you need to know the schools you are trying to apply for before you even write your exam. The reason is this. So if I were to be going to a lower ranked school, like a top 100 school, I will know that, okay, I don't need to do so much on my GMAT or /GRE, or I need to do high on my GRE, and this is the part I need to work on. I need to work on my English because this school is involved. This school likes people. Prior history shows that this school likes using English to mark people out. So you have to know your schools before you choose your exam. So for instance, if you are doing an MBA, then you have a choice between the GMAT and the GRE. Then if you are doing a normal MSc, you are most likely just going to do a GRE. So it's a case of knowing, you must know the program before you write the exam. And there's another thing. When you're writing your GMAT or your GRE, I don't know whether it happens for GRE, but I'm sure it happens for GMAT. So when you're writing your GMAT, you write the schools you want to send your first GMAT, your score to. So let's say you cannot now be going to the hall and now be picking the schools you want to send. You have to have thought of it previously that, okay, I want to send mine to Tuck, I want to send to Harvard, I want to send to Stanford, I want to send to MIT before you get into the hall. So that when you get into the hall, that one doesn't waste your time because it's like a 1 minute thing. So it doesn't take your time and you're not so nervous like, oh, why didn't I think of the school before I came in? So you must think of the school and their peculiarities before choosing your exam.
I think
sorry. Okay, so someone wants to jump on, but let me just quickly say this. So I have a different view when it comes to you choosing your schools before you take the exam. And I say this because it depends on the timeline for when you are actually taking your exam, first things first. So if you're taking your exam earlier than admissions period, especially maybe round one, please, can you go on mute? Yeah. So I think you need to, yes, it's very important to know the program you're applying for. That is very, very important, like Dami said. But if it's flexible for you, to be honest, because I feel like when it comes to knowing the actual schools you want to go into, it takes a lot more than just researching on the surface, right? It takes a lot more than just knowing the school name that I'm interested in. It takes actually networking with the schools, understanding your fit for that program in that particular school as well. So I believe that you don't need to know the schools. You can send your test scores to some schools after you write your exam. Like, I think it's like $15 or something to send everything. Like but yeah, like you won't, even when you take your exam, right, you only have like 4 schools you can send to for free. And you might not even end up applying to those schools at the end of the day. Like, because if you find out that those schools are not a good fit for you personally, what would you do? You don't have to apply to the schools you send your scores to. But I'm just trying to say that it's very flexible. Give yourself time. You don't need to research all the programs you are going, the schools you are going into, but definitely know the program you're applying for. So somebody talked about an MSc in finance versus an MBA is definitely very good for you to know the program you're applying for. But the particular schools are flexible. Samuel, please jump on.
Yeah, so what I'll try to do, you guys have beautifully listed out 2 great points. What I'll try to do is just synthesize those points into one. And I want to draw attention to the importance of practice tests. Many people would know that one thing we constantly emphasize in the community is the power of practice. You should not in any way be taking a GRE or GMAT test without at least practicing or taking a real practice test in 2 weeks. There must at least be one. Better off if you can do one every week. Now, the essence of that practice test is you often find out that your final grades are usually not too far away from your practice score when you're nearly towards the exam, especially if you take the GRE practice test, the 2 ones. Those are the last 2 tests I advise anyone to take. Now, your scores are not usually away from that. So the strategy I employed was to constantly take practice tests. And yours hovering around 315, 317, towards the end 320. I finally added 321. My point there is you can use that to assess the schools you can apply to. The essence of picking schools before going for the test is also to help you add a target to it. They say if you don't know where you're going to, any road will lead you there. It's just about finding a road that you're going to. Now, at the end of the day, it might turn out, just as Olamide said, that you don't apply to any of those schools. But you found people who are lucky enough to have been accurate at their assessment, being too self-aware that the schools they actually pick are the ones they eventually apply to, maybe 2 or 3 of them. Again, it depends on the resources available to you. Is $15 or $25 a lot of money for you? If it is a lot of money, then you want to get it right. If you're not worried or concerned about that, then you can just forget about it and decide to choose afterwards. But the point is your context is important. Your context of the amount of resources that you have is important. Your context about around how much time you have to write the exam is important. Your context around your self-awareness, how self-aware you about your true capability is also important. So you see that all those things, depending on the answer to that, you can choose a different strategy that really, really leverages what is true to your own situation. I think I can just quickly go into our mission as people sign off. We're rounding up. This is a community and lane. We are excited about the dreams and the things that we're doing so far. We're a community of MBA students, alum, and enthusiasts looking to leverage their MBA program for a more politically and economically inclusive Africa. And to do that, right now, we're focused on increasing Africa's representation in global MBA programs. And why are we doing this? Why are we not charging you? Why are we emphasizing community? Every single person today who's contributed to the success of the events and many things. We don't pay a dime to them, not because we don't want to, not because we don't value their service, but because we communally, collectively believe in paying it forward for people who may not have the resources at hand. So we plan to build an economically and inclusive Africa by empowering you. Hopefully, by doing that, you get into good MBA programs that empowers you economically and politically. And then you can take that empowerment and return back to Africa in some way. We sometimes ask people to evaluate how much this service is to them. and pay that forward to someone else coming along the line. So you might have a friend somewhere, you might have a brother or sister, a mentee somewhere who has no chance to get into an MBA program. But then based on what you learned here and what you're continually learning in the community, you're putting that time and resources into helping those people have access to the opportunity that you also have access to. That is paying it forward, and that's what we hope you will do. I'll quickly run through our mission, our aims and objectives. There are 5 of them. They're ambitious, and there are ways that you can help us. First, empower young Africans by supporting 1,000 Africans in the top 150 global MBA program in 7 years. You can help us achieve that by making sure you get into an MBA program. The second one is strengthen existing community connection amongst African MBA students by connecting African clubs together. One thing I've found to be fascinating is how the Indians work together for themselves. You find them pulling resources and pool of money together that other people can have access to. You take a loan from an Indian bank. They're willing to support your dreams as long as you're willing to pay that back. And when you start working, you start contributing to the pool so that other people can access money to improve their own well-being as well. The third one is to be a catalyst for financial independence by providing qualified MBA candidates, enthusiasts, students, alums, access to a network of recruiters and incubation program that ensures that they're able to get good jobs and business opportunity after the MBA program. The fourth one is to just bridge gap between quality MBA education and talented Africans, making sure that business schools are paying close attention and investing a lot of money to accessing talented Africans across board. And lastly, we want to ensure that there's a continual pipeline. Imagine if someone had told you what an MBA program is. Imagine if someone had explained to you all the things you really need to know and plan for, even while you were in your third, second, even first year in the university. You would have been better off in terms of preparing, and you wouldn't have to waste time. So that's it. Our guiding principles are 5: selflessness. We appreciate difference. We understand creativity. We look forward to inclusiveness, and we want people who are accountable. And that's really who we are. If you'd like to join us, there's a link being shared in the group already. You can join a community of people who are thinking like you on this journey as well. And there's just so much we can do together. And so thank you very much for joining us today. I think on that note, we can call it a day.
Thanks so much for the information, Sam. So yeah, just a quick one, everyone. So I want to implore every one of us that we are planning on taking the GRE exam, applying to register. This is a community. We are here for you. I think the thing we know how to do best is to provide resources and share insights to people. So we are here for you. Don't hesitate to contact us. Don't hesitate to join us. Don't hesitate to ask for information. Thank you very much. Olamide,
Yes. Yeah. So just before we go, so I know a lot of people have been asking about the Lane Test Prep group. So I will drop a comment in the Telegram group. So you can reach out to Toby on how to actually join the group. So the group is on WhatsApp, but you have to be on the Telegram group and you have to be a member of Lane to be a part of that test prep group. And then we also have, so there's also pairing as well. So if you're looking for a study buddy, Toby has actually been able to pair people who are writing their exams around the same time as well. So if you're looking for support, like real support system beyond the community, you have people that you can get paired with somebody who you would be accountable to every other day or every other week throughout your entire study period for your GRE or your GMAT. And I know it really does help. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.